The hearing room at the Capitol was already charged with anticipation long before the gavel struck wood. Reporters filled every available seat. Cameras blinked from all angles, and whispers rippled across the crowd like restless waves. Everyone knew this wasn't going to be an ordinary political exchange, not when Pam Bondi and Jasmine Crockett were set to face each other. Pam Bondi, the polished former Florida Attorney General with a reputation for turning hearings into theater, had come determined to embarrass Jasmine. She'd spent the week preparing zingers, collecting out-of-context quotes, and rehearsing that familiar smile she wore when she wanted to appear superior. Jasmine Crockett, on the other hand, wasn't known for backing down. The young congresswoman from Texas had a sharp mind, a quicker tongue, and a fire that made her both loved and feared in Washington. As she adjusted the microphone in front of her, she noticed Bondi's confident smirk and couldn't help but smile faintly to herself. Let her try, Jasmine thought. The moderator cleared his throat and called the hearing to order. Miss Bondi, you may begin. Pam leaned forward, her voice syrupy and controlled. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congresswoman Crockett, I must say, it's an honor to have you here today. I followed your broken bar-spirited performances in recent hearings. There was the tone the one people used when they wanted to sound polite while throwing daggers. Jasmine didn't flinch. Thank you, Miss Bondi. I appreciate your broken bar attention. A few muffled chuckles rose from the back of the room. Pam ignored them, flipping open her folder. Now, you've made quite a name for yourself, haven't you? Passionate speeches, strong language, a flair for a broken bar dramatics. Some might call that caring, Jasmine said evenly. Pam smiled tightly. Yes, well, caring is one thing, but decorum is another. Many would argue your approach lacks professionalism. Do you think shouting across the floor is an appropriate way to conduct yourself as a representative? Jasmine's eyes glinted. Do I think silence in the face of injustice is professional? I think it's cowardice. That was the first hit, clean, direct, perfectly timed. The audience reacted instantly. A low murmur filled the air. Pam pressed on, feigning calm. So you're saying it's acceptable for you to I'm saying, Jasmine interrupted, her tone sharp now, that when you represent people who've been ignored, you don't whisper their pain and you speak it loud enough that even those who don't want to hear have no choice but to listen. Pam's smile wavered. She hadn't expected resistance this early, but she wasn't ready to give up her script. She lifted a piece of paper dramatically. Let's talk about your recent comments about law enforcement. You said, and I quote, some people wear badges to protect power, not people. That sounds dangerously close to disrespecting our institutions, doesn't it? Jasmine leaned forward. You mean the same institutions that too often look the other way when people in power break the rules? The ones that lock up a single mother for a mistake but excuse billionaires for fraud? If that's what you call sacred, then maybe they deserve a little disrespect. The room broke into gasps and a few scattered claps before the moderator called for order. Pam's jaw tightened. She'd walked into this expecting an easy sparring match, a viral moment at Jasmine's expense, but somehow, the moment had turned on her. You really enjoy this, don't you? Pam asked, her tone dropping its pretense of warmth. The attention, the drama. You thrive on controversy. I thrive on truth. Jasmine shot back. And if that makes people uncomfortable, maybe that says more about them than about me. Pam's pen tapped sharply against her folder. So you think you're above criticism? No, Jasmine said calmly. I just don't take it from people who confuse civility with complicity. The air grew heavier. Cameras zoomed in. Pam forced a laugh. You're very good at sound bites, Congresswoman. But this isn't about speeches. It's about credibility. And frankly, yours has been questioned more than once. Jasmine raised an eyebrow. By whom? The same commentators who get paid to talk over women like me? Or the donors who prefer representatives they can control? A hush fell over the room. Pam opened her mouth, but Jasmine wasn't done. You've built a career defending the powerful, Miss Bondi. I've built mine fighting for people who never had a voice. So no, I won't take lessons in professionalism from someone who used public office to play politics with people's lives. Pam blinked. visibly rattled now. "Excuse me?" Jasmine's tone didn't waver. "You talk about order and respect, but where was your respect when corporations polluted communities and you looked away? When families begged for help and you stayed silent because the people responsible had money and influence? That's your version of professionalism." Pam's voice caught. "Yeah, that's not fair." "It's true," Jasmine said simply. The moderator tried to interject again, but no one was listening. Everyone in the room, from reporters to staffers, was transfixed. The cameras panned from Bondi's strained expression to Jasmine's steady, unflinching gaze. Pam shuffled her papers, searching for control. "You're misrepresenting my record. I have always stood for justice." "Justice for whom?" Jasmine's voice was calm, but it carried like thunder. "Because it sure wasn't for the people who couldn't afford to make it onto your radar." The blow landed hard. The audience erupted again, and this time, the moderator didn't even bother trying to stop it. Pam leaned back, visibly flustered. Her eyes darted toward the camera. She knew this moment would be everywhere in minutes. Still, she tried one last jab. "You know, Congresswoman, you have a reputation for turning everything into a spectacle. Maybe if you focused less on grandstanding and more on policy." "I focus on people, Miss Bondi," Jasmine interrupted, "and people don't need a performance. They need someone who will stand up to the very same system that you keep defending." With a smile, the applause came instantly, this time loud, spontaneous, unstoppable. Pam's lips parted, as if she wanted to reply, but she didn't. For the first time, her confidence slipped completely. She looked around the room and realized that she had lost them. Jasmine leaned slightly forward, her voice softer now but no less powerful. "You came here hoping to humiliate me, but what you really did was give me a platform, and I used it to say what millions have been wanting to say for years, so thank you for that." Pam blinked rapidly. Her hand trembled as she tried to gather her papers, but they slipped slightly, fluttering onto the desk. The audience laughed quietly, not cruelly, but knowingly. Jasmine sat back, composed, her expression unreadable. "The difference between us, Miss Bondi," she said finally, "is that you fight to preserve the system. I fight to change it." There was silence, a heavy, stunned silence that no one dared to break for several seconds. And then, from the back of the chamber, someone began clapping. It was hesitant at first, then joined by another, then another, until the entire room was filled with applause. Pam Bondi looked down, pretending to read something, her face flushed with a mix of frustration and disbelief. Jasmine didn't gloat. She didn't even smile. She simply nodded once, her calm composure unshaken, as though the storm that had just erupted around her was nothing new. For her, it wasn't, because she'd spent her whole career walking into rooms where people underestimated her, and leaving those same rooms in silence. As the gavel struck again, signaling the end of the session, Pam Bondi gathered her things hurriedly, avoiding Jasmine's gaze. But Jasmine turned to her with a quiet, confident tone. "Next time, Miss Bondi," she said gently, "come with truth, not theatrics." Pam didn't reply. She simply walked out. Cameras followed her, but all anyone would remember that day was the woman who refused to be humiliated, the woman who stood her ground, spoke her truth, and made the world listen. That woman was Jasmine Crockett. The sun had barely risen over Washington, D.C., but the internet had already chosen its victor. Overnight, every news outlet, blog, and social platform was flooded with clips of the fiery exchange between Pam Bondi and Jasmine Crockett. The moment Jasmine said, "The difference between us is that you fight to preserve the system, I fight to change it," had become an instant classic, a quote replayed endlessly on television, dissected by pundits, and immortalized in memes. Twitter threads, TikTok edits, and reaction videos spread like wildfire. Young activists called it to masterclass in standing your ground. Even those who had never watched a congressional hearing before were now quoting Jasmine Crockett. Pam Bondi, meanwhile, awoke to a different kind of morning. Her phone was flooded with calls, some from old allies, others from furious donors demanding to know what had gone wrong. Her publicist's voice trembled on speakerphone. "Pam, it's everywhere. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, TikTok, even ESPN, they're all running the clip. You're trending #2 worldwide." Pam sat up in bed, rubbing her temples. "What's number one?" The publicist hesitated. A broken bar. Crockett clapped back. Pam exhaled sharply and got out of bed. "Schedule a press appearance." "I'm not letting her control the narrative." Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett was at her modest D.C. apartment, sitting quietly on the balcony with her morning coffee. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from colleagues, journalists, and friends. Carla, her chief of staff, arrived holding two phones, both lighting up with alerts. "You've gone viral again, boss. You're on Good Morning America, The View, and even late night. They're calling it your mic drop moment." Jasmine gave a small, tired smile. "I wasn't trying to make a moment. I was trying to make a point." Carla laughed softly. "Well, you did both." Jasmine set her cup down. "I just hope the point doesn't get lost in all the noise." Across the country, the debate over what had happened was everywhere, on newsstands, in classrooms, on dinner tables. Some praised Jasmine for speaking truth to power, others accused her of disrespecting a distinguished public servant. But even Jasmine's critics admitted she had done something extraordinary. She had spoken with the clarity and authenticity rarely seen in Washington. By mid-afternoon, every network wanted an interview. Her team was flooded with requests. "CNN wants you tonight," Carla said, "but so does The Daily Show." "And, you my broken bar," Oprah's team called. Jasmine blinked. "Oprah? That Oprah?" Carla nodded, grinning. "Apparently, she loved what you said about truth not needing permission to be loud." Jasmine laughed. "Guess I should have trademarked it." While Jasmine was reluctantly preparing for interviews, Pam Bondi was storming through her office, snapping at her staff. "This shouldn't have happened," she fumed. "I had facts, I had quotes." She blindsided me with emotion and theatrics. Her communications director, a cautious man in his 40s, tried to reason with her. "Pam, it wasn't just theatrics," she connected. "People felt what she said. It wasn't about logic, I was about authenticity." And Pam cut him off. "Authenticity doesn't win elections, control does." "We'll release a statement reminding people that passion without discipline is chaos." The director sighed. "Just a broken bar, be careful. The internet's not buying it." But Pam didn't care. She went on air that evening, her posture impeccable, her smile mechanical. "I respect Congresswoman Crockett's enthusiasm," she told the interviewer, "but yelling and accusations aren't leadership, they're theater. Real leadership is about integrity and restraint." It might have worked if not for the fact that, within minutes, Jasmine appeared on a rival network for a live interview. The host welcomed her warmly. "Congresswoman Crockett, last night's hearing went viral. People are calling it historic. What do you say to those who think you were too aggressive?" Jasmine smiled faintly. "I'd say passion makes people uncomfortable when they're used to silence. But truth doesn't always come in a soft voice. Sometimes, it has to shake the walls a little." The host leaned in. "And to Pam Bondi, who said you were performing, not leading." Jasmine's tone softened. "I don't perform, I represent. There's a difference." "She talks about restraint, but you can't restrain the truth. And if speaking it out loud makes people uncomfortable, maybe that's the first sign it's finally being heard." The studio audience erupted in applause. The clip went viral within minutes. Pam Bondi's interview, meanwhile, drew ridicule. Hashtags like #restraint isn't respect and #Pam got played started trending. By the next day, Jasmine's face was on every magazine cover. The voice of a new generation. One headline read, "Another called her fearless, flawless, and unapologetic." Even international outlets picked up the story. BBC News ran the headline, "Congresswoman Crockett redefines power in Washington." In a small cafe tilted copyright near Capitol Hill, a group of young women watched the coverage on TV. "That's what leadership looks like," one said. She didn't flinch. Another added, "Finally, someone who talks like she means it." At that same moment, in a quiet part of Florida, Pam Bondi sat on her back porch, scrolling through her phone. Every article seemed to twist a knife up her. Her closest friend, Donna, called to check in. "Pam, you okay?" Pam gave a bitter laugh. "Oh, I'm fine, just watching my reputation burn in 4K. Maybe it's time to step back, Donna suggested gently. Let the storm pass. Pam sighed. You don't understand. I was supposed to win that moment. I've handled tougher opponents than her. But something about Crockett, a broken bar. She doesn't fight like the others. She believes every word she says. That's dangerous. Donna chuckled. Dangerous to whom? Pam didn't answer. Later that night, Jasmine returned to her apartment after yet another interview. The city lights shimmered through her window, and she finally had a moment of quiet. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother in Dallas. Baby, I saw you on TV. You made us proud. Grandma would have been cheering. Jasmine's eyes softened. She thought of her grandmother, a woman who had marched in protests, endured discrimination, and taught her that silence in the face of injustice was its own kind of sin. Carla entered quietly. You're trending again, she said with a grin. This time for refusing to apologize. Jasmine looked up from her phone. Why would I apologize for being honest? Exactly, Carla said, and that's why they love you. But Jasmine wasn't thinking about love or fame. She was thinking about the future, about how moments like this came with responsibility. The more visible she became, the more they would try to break her. The next day, she stood before a crowd of college students at Howard University. The auditorium was packed, cameras flashing. I know you've all seen the clip, Jasmine began with a smile. And maybe you think that's what power looks like, that moment when you clap back and the room goes silent. But real power isn't about the mic drop. It's about what you do next. The audience leaned in. Power, she said, her voice strong and steady, is refusing to be silenced when silence is easier. It's showing up again and again, even when they mock you, underestimate you, or try to humiliate you. Because the truth doesn't need permission. It just needs someone brave enough to say it. The hall erupted with thunderous applause. And somewhere, watching from a television in a quiet Florida home, Pam Bondi turned off the sound. She sat in silence for a long time before finally whispering to herself, maybe she's right, because deep down, even Pam knew Jasmine Crockett hadn't just defeated her in a hearing, she had sparked something much bigger, a conversation, a reckoning, a reminder that courage, once spoken out loud, can't be silenced again. That day, history didn't just record a confrontation, it recorded a shift at the moment when one fearless woman turned humiliation into empowerment and left the world speechless. And from that day forward, whenever someone tried to tear Jasmine Crockett down, she didn't have to respond. The world remembered her words for her. Greater than I'm not here to play nice for people who never cared about fairness. I'm here for the truth, and the truth doesn't need your permission to be loud.